Force is what gives the Jedi his power. It's an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us, it penetrates us, it binds the galaxy together.
Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. I'm a Jedi, like my father before me.
Alright, hello everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Legends Library. I, of course, am Cade, and today I will be bringing you my thoughts and my cautious optimism about Star Wars number 108, the first piece of Legends media since the Disney buyout. Now, as a little bit of backstory, this comic is a sequel to Star Wars number 50, The Crimson Forever, which came out way back in May 19th of 1981. Star Wars number 108 came out at the end of May 2019, and it's taken me a little while to really kind of gather my thoughts about this and this comic continuation, perhaps. Now, obviously, a lot of people were very, very excited for this. I saw this first, I believe, on a Facebook page that I follow, but then it also began to pop up on all kinds of Star Wars Expanded Universe related things, like the Star Wars EU subreddit, as well as many Facebook pages, YouTube channels, and all that. And in general, people were very excited. And at the beginning, I was pretty excited for it as well, until I kind of got around to reading it. It was very difficult to get into because I didn't read Star Wars number 50 from 1981. So the kind of plot here, I guess I personally didn't understand. Obviously, I knew the main four characters. It also had a fairly big part by the either loved or hated Legends character of Jackson, the giant green space bunny, who I'm not too keen on being super represented in this, because he's kind of pointed at as one of the main failings of Star Wars Legends and one of the overly silly things that were included in it. And why do I bring that up for a probably just one-off comic? Well, because there were lots of campaigns to get fans of the Star Wars Expanded Universe to buy Star Wars 108 to show that there is still interest in Legends. And yes, I think there is definitely still a huge interest in Legends, but the thing I'm worried about personally is that we won't get continuations of the stories that had most recently come out, and instead we'll get continuations of the overly silly, kind of, in hindsight, disliked Marvel comic books from the 1980s. And I don't really want that. I don't want Legends to continue on as a goofy, kind of Saturday mornings kid cartoon comic book. This, of course, is not meant to be a slight in any way to you if you're a fan of this or of the previous Marvel Star Wars comics. I personally am not a big fan of them. They did some interesting things and brought about some good ideas, I suppose, that were later expanded on by Dark Horse and the novels. But I really don't think that in the modern day that the silly, goofy 1980s Marvel comic books can really stand compared to what is currently being put out for the canon, with some of the, I guess, grittier stories of Darth Vader being told, especially right now. I don't want Legends, as I had said before, to become the silly Star Wars continuity where, Jackson, the big green space rabbit, shows up, and it's just not something I'm interested in reading, and I hope that that won't be what this is. What I'm hoping is that the sales for this comic book showed that, yes, there is still a market for Legends comic books, and with that, you would assume Legends novels as well. But I would hope that instead we get continuations of the Dark Horse stuff, because, well, they were very, very well received by everybody, and I think it would be much more interesting to have a serious counter to the serious stuff that's going on right now in the canon. And of course, there can be silly things in a hypothetical continuations of the Star Wars Expanded Universe. There's nothing wrong with having silly little stuff, but again, and I feel like this might get brought up a lot, but I don't want silly 1980s Star Wars Marvel comics. I'm sure there is a market for that, and again, this isn't meant to be an attack on you if that's what you like, but I feel the majority of Expanded Universe fans are looking for something along the lines of the Dark Horse comics. Now, am I saying we immediately should get this? No, because we can't get a continuation of Dark Horse, because Dark Horse doesn't have the rights to do the comic books anymore, because Marvel does. But I don't know if there would be some weird licensing issue with characters created by Dark Horse being used by Marvel writers. I'm not too sure on that. But I would prefer to see continuations of the stories that we were getting. For instance, the Legacy Volume 2 comic was kind of abruptly ended, and I believe it could have been continued. We could have gotten more continuations of the Star Wars Invasion comic, which was abruptly canceled before the buyout even, but it would still be interesting to be able to revisit the expanded universe and continue a lot of these things that were left off. And hypothetically, if that did happen, it could also lead to a resurgence in expanded universe novels. As far as I've read, the Sword of the Jedi trilogy was nearly completed, but then was scrapped with the buyout. And it would be great to see that, and see the continuation of that timeline as well. And to my kind of main point that I want to get across in this video, there's no reason, in my opinion, that Star Wars Legends, the expanded universe, the original expanded universe, whatever you call it, cannot continue alongside the current canon. There's a rather big precedent of the Marvel Ultimate Universe existing alongside the long-running 616 universe, the universe that was obviously existed before 2000. And well, I think that would work perfectly. You could have Legends getting their own novels and comics, and you could have canon to continue to get their own novels and comics. I'm not saying that we should get expanded universe movies or TV shows or anything like that. Would it be great if we could? Of course. Would it be great if they continued making video games set in the expanded universe from before 2014? Yes, it would. But I wouldn't expect that, and in my opinion, that's where it gets a little unrealistic to expect. And for some people, it might be a stretch that they publish two separate universes for both novels and books. But for comics, I don't think it would be very hard at all, considering Marvel did it for, about a decade. And for the expanded universe fans, I think it would be great. And, I'm no marketing expert, but I think the sales would be fairly good as well, what with all the people who are kind of, at this point, not so much demanding, but really wanting a continuation of the expanded universe. But of course, those are just my personal thoughts about this. And I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. Are you happy with Star Wars 108 and it continuing the 1980s Marvel line of Star Wars, if of course it even happens? Would you prefer a more serious take, like the Dark Horse comics from the 2000s all the way up to 2014? Or are you kind of just not keen on it continuing at all? I have seen some people even say that with the current people at the head of Star Wars, that they wouldn't want even a continuation of the expanded universe. I personally am not in that camp, and would love to see Star Wars Legends continue alongside the new canon. And they could even call it that. They can put the Legends banner on it. They can say on the inside cover of every comic book and every novel that this is only canon to movies 1 through 6 and anything in the previous Star Wars Legends. I personally wouldn't have a problem with that if they branded it as such, and I think that would be very smart and would, make more options for people. But again, leave your thoughts and opinions below, and until we get you in the next video, guys, have a great day.